So, Lauren, super excited to have you on the show to be talking about dancing and why in the world you would try to bring something like dance to an online platform. I'm so curious. What inspired you to do that?
Oh, I think the original inspiration was probably hearing that Hormozy was coming to the Skool platform. Actually, I was a follower of what he was doing and of since the Leeds launch, I think a couple of years ago, maybe, and reading the books that he had. And somehow I think I was already on Skool from Andrew Kirby's group, but I didn't know I had signed up for it. So once I got an email, I think from Kirby about school games is when I joined. I didn't know what I was going to do. I just knew, oh, they're doing something new. I've been wanting to build online and learn about it. And I was like, this could be a cool opportunity. But I didn't know it was going to be like this.
Right. Yeah,
Yeah.
I was kind of the same story. I saw Alex invested and I'm like, I should probably check this out and see what's going on here. Um, I know you've been on the platform for a while. You've been super active around like how has your experience been on School so far?
It's been so much fun. It's been, yeah, I've met people that, like, I've met people on School that it's fun to see popping up in other groups whenever I join. I'm like, oh, these are the regulars. And then
Yeah.
I've also met people that actually live in my area, but I wouldn't have met them had they not joined this group. And then I realized, oh, we live in the same city and we've met up and things like that. So
Mm.
yeah, this just been a chance to meet like people at a time in my life where my own community, I think, was shifting. And so now it's just like, it was good timing.
Right. It's interesting how the kind of relationships that you can form with people online. I haven't really experienced this type of. There's something like about School that feels almost like very in person already, even though it's online. It's not. There's something about the way that people are interacting. Maybe it's a excitement that a lot of people are coming with, or an openness or a willingness to like jump on calls and join new communities. And there's a lot of I don't know, social experimentation and connection that seems to be happening.
I feel like that too. Yeah. And I haven't been a part of something that, like, I know school's not new, but I haven't been a part of something that's kind of in like a newish phase like this where
Mm,
people, hopefully it's this way forever. I feel like it's like part of the school culture, but it is cool to see like so many people are like, well, what can we do here? And
yeah.
they're willing to like just test stuff out and try things out. And it just, it seems like it opens up space to see like the realness of people, like
Mm,
not every path is formed yet, and so you
yeah.
can see people just being really creative. And as a creative person, I'm like, oh, that helps me get to know you when I can see like how you try things in life and stuff.
Right. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, it's kind of like you get to know people sometimes through the struggles and the challenges and sometimes through these kinds of new, like you're saying, I think new kinds of opportunities where neither one of you really knows the right direction. And I've noticed that a lot with being on School kind of early like this is that there's people who have like huge amounts of experience in another domain, but this is a whole new type of project for them and for everybody. So there's a lot more, I think, willingness to collaborate, like across different, I don't know, backgrounds and different experience levels and things like this.
Yeah, exactly. I feel like that too.
Have you noticed that you've been connecting with unexpected people on the platform, like any people from outside of the dance community that you're getting value from or that you wouldn't have expected?
Definitely outside of the dance community, and there have been, yeah, it's funny. Like, it's hard to keep track of all the connections sometimes. But yeah, there have been people that I've gotten to know and learn from. I'm in Sarah Hankins' community. Never would have participated in like a lot of these groups that I'm in. I'm in a journaling club, Angela
Mm,
Perry's group, and some others.
cool.
Yeah. And I like to learn, so I'm also like, I could probably join so many communities if I didn't limit myself.
Of course.
But yeah,
Shout out Angela. I'm also working with Angela. Goes to show how small of a network School kind of still is, like there's still all these connections. You're like, oh, you know this person too.
hmm hmm
So that's neat.
yeah, she's great.
Mm. I'm curious about, so back to the dance, like, how is it that you're bringing something that's so physical and so much like rooted in like actually being around other people, at least from my understanding of dance? How are you like bringing that to school, and like what are you using school for in that sense?
Mm. Yeah, I'm still learning for sure about what's possible that way. I was actually just talking to someone. We were doing a dance improvisation session where I had like an audio recording so that I wouldn't have to facilitate and I could just follow along as well. And
Okay.
so we were moving and just dancing freely. If people don't know what improvisation is, just anything that comes out of your body, moving to the music. And afterward, I was talking with the other person and saying, I wonder if there's ways to bring in things like dance partnering, where
Mm.
you're really in contact with each other, like in a physical space. We were talking about what that would be like online. And she was actually saying that during the pandemic, a cohort member at her graduate school, I think, did like a project that was about like moving in connection to each other through Zoom or through like the
Mm.
screen. So there's like all of these different thoughts that I have about it. I think it's easy if it's like there's many people in our group that we don't live in the same place. So the only time that we would have the chance to dance together is through something like this.
Mm.
So in those moments, I'm like, it feels good and it feels right. Other people where I live in the actual same city as them, sometimes there does feel like this kind of awkwardness of, well, we
Uh,
could just go do this in the studio.
right.
So I think it offers up opportunities like to make dance more accessible for different locations and things. But there's also still something about being together, like in an actual studio and dancing and like the smell of the room and feeling like the sweat of other people's bodies and things. That's not quite the same. But there's new things that have opened up. Like I was saying, we do the dance breaks where we just kind of come together and dance. It's nighttime for me, but it's like morning for some people.
Okay.
And we listen to music for 15 minutes and it's just like a little dance party.
Nice.
Nobody's talking, we're just on there.
Mm.
And then we have some classes where people come and teach like a traditional dance class.
Okay. Yeah, I was looking at your Instagram and I noticed that you have a lot of people coming in. Like it seems like a very collaborative kind of process. Is that the case?
Yeah, pretty open. I do ask people, try to ask people what they're interested in taking, like when they come into the group. It is difficult in this moment because there's only certain things that I can teach. Like I don't teach hip hop. I would
Hmm.
love to, but I need to be taking those classes myself. But like I can teach modern and ballet. There's certain styles that people are interested that I just have to find like people who are kind of experts in those. And
Hmm.
so it's been cool too now to find people in other dance communities and ask if they want to teach a class in our group, which also seems to benefit their group too. We've done that a
Right.
couple times.
Right. That makes a lot of sense. And I guess like with the affiliates feature coming out very soon, there should be a lot more opportunities, or at least more incentive for these kinds of collaborations for people too.
Yeah, I'm hoping so. I
Hmm.
haven't thought about how to use it. I'm curious to see how people use it.
Right. I'm also curious about the in-person aspect of it. Like it seems from what I understand, your community is about like bringing people together online, like you're bringing different people. It's not so much focused around your area specifically, but I imagine there will be a lot of businesses coming onto Skool who are, dance communities in a certain location, who are just trying to get more maybe communication with their members, or maybe even using it as a payment system in a way of like holding their community together when they're not at the location. uh,
Hmm.
do you know of anybody that's doing this kind of stuff right now?
Yeah, actually, when I first started in the school games, I built a group. The original group was Dance Hub, and that's the group that was just bringing people together. I was reaching out to strangers and still reaching out to strangers on Instagram and on School and bringing dancers. And then I very briefly created another group called Dance Hub for Studios
Mm.
and started reaching out to a ton of different dance studios because I thought that, like, when I first got on there were only a handful of dance related groups. And I personally was also thinking, like, what's my paid offer? But I was also like, there need to be more dance groups. So what if we just bring all these studios here, like you were saying, for their members, for their students? Some people don't want their children to have like a social media account, but maybe they'd be
Right.
more comfortable with like a private group or something for dancers to connect. Now, I'm not in them, but I do see a couple other like dance marketing groups that seem to be that kind of space, like to help dance studio owners. I think it's Sally Pendergast. I might be pronouncing her name wrong, but she does dance marketing and assisting studio owners with that kind of thing. So I think there are groups to help bring more studios onto the platform. But even still, like, I think there's so many ways that it can be used, like for the business, that it's not yet.
Yeah, there's a lot of possibilities that are
Yeah.
coming out. And the neat thing about Skool, I think, is that the people who are building it seem to be so responsive to what people actually want on the platform. So there's a lot of you almost the tech is evolving very quickly, and it's opening up new possibilities. On a regular basis, things that you wouldn't expect, that you haven't seen in other platforms necessarily. Yeah, I'm curious about, like, is there anything that you like? What do you like about Skool on the tech side? Is there anything in particular that you think is special about it?
It's very simple.
Yeah.
Like I like the simplicity. It feels simple. I'm not a very techie person, but when I get into a rhythm with something, it's like I learn it and I know it. I'm like, okay, I just can repeat the same thing. And building out a new community, I'm like, okay, I can repeat this. It's actually really nice that there are limitations to like the number of images and the number of text. And like, honestly, like I think being a part of this space and the culture of Skool and just the mindset has helped me in my life too. Because it's like, as a creative, I could just go anywhere, and it's often like on a rabbit, like what am I saying? Like down a rabbit hole that I don't really even need to go, and it's just nice that there's limits to what we can do and how we can do it, but the possibilities within that structure are like endless. I love that there's the opportunity to turn things on and off, classroom and calendar. And I'm just playing now with like what's actually needed in our space. Like,
Right.
what do people really need? Even just now, I tried out, Sarah Hankins was talking about how to use the leaderboard instead of the classroom. And now I just turned off the classroom completely, and everything is in the leaderboard as kind of the roadmap. And to me, I'm like, that makes sense. Like,
That's interesting. I hadn't thought about that idea.
yeah, she went through like a whole video of where to put the links so that people can find them. But it's just nice. Like there's no, it works. It works, I think, for now for us. And
Right.
also like the leaderboard wasn't a huge part of our group yet, like incentivizing people to earn points. I'm still kind of like, I don't know what we need that for dance yet. We used to do some prizes and stuff, but now I'm like, oh, the leaderboards have a whole new life. So just seeing like even something like that, and like this thing that used to be like to incentivize your members to level up
Yeah.
can also just be a roadmap to show them this is where you can go.
I
And
love
so,
that.
yeah.
I love that. That's such a good example, I think, of how this what they're building. It's like we always find new ways of using it, and sometimes I think it's not even part of the design. Like I would be surprised if Skool had planned that, and maybe Sarah just kind of clued into this way of using it. Makes
Yeah.
me really want to have Sarah on the podcast soon.
Yes.
I know how super active she's, like one of the most active people on the platform. So
Yeah,
of
she's
course,
amazing.
yeah.
I'm in her action and her grow group, and yeah, just the way she thinks, I'm like, oh, when she says it, I'm like, that sounds so intuitive, but I never would have figured them out.
Yeah, I'm always curious. That's why I think like having these kinds of conversations with people, just for the sake of having conversations, you never know what kind of little gem of wisdom you're gonna grab, from,
Yeah.
because everybody uses it so differently and everybody has these different connections. So maybe like from here, I'd like to know a bit about your vision for your own path on Skool. I don't know if you have an idea about like where you go from here. Like what is your next move on Skool?
I don't know. It's like always at the point where I think I know. I'm like, I have no idea. And it it's very helpful. There have been many things in the past before school that I tried, and we did like Amazon FBA for a while, and many different things like that where I was like, oh, this is the path to do what I want to do online and to also earn a sustainable income that either complements like my dance. I don't teach as much dance anymore, or it is the main thing. And now it's like, I found the bucket. School is like the place. And I know that our free community is useful. It's useful for me, and from what people are saying, it's useful for them. The places that I can go next, I'm like still questioning a little bit. But ultimately, I do want more dancers and more people in movement to experience like what we can do together online. I think it's fun. And I think it'll also branch out too into like in real life events.
Yeah.
That's what I'm really hoping for, like retreats and things. But what the actual structure of it is, every day I think I'm figuring out little bits and pieces. And even now, I have my notebook and my pen because I'm like, even this conversation I know is going to spark ideas of, what's next.
What about your like where you're getting members from? Are you doing YouTube stuff? Are you on Instagram? Does everybody coming from school?
A lot of people now have come from school. When before we had the Dance Hub group that very clearly looked like it was a place for dancers, less people came from school. Now that it's a little more open to anyone interested in dance and finding a dance community, a lot of people have come from school. But in the past, the other group was up to, I think, like 125 members, and almost all of them I had individually just reached out to random strangers on Instagram and asked, do you want to come in? And then a lot of them did.
Right.
But looking back, I'm like, oh man, I was like reaching out to a lot of just random strangers.
Were these dance community, like were these people that were like professional dancers, or did they have their own dance like studios or?
Yeah, I was mostly looking up like, because it was important for me that it's like a very diverse space with a lot of styles and a lot of different experiences, like how long people have been dancing and stuff. But I was also like, well, I have my own personal biases. I'm just going to reach out to everyone if I'm the one bringing everybody in. So I started looking at like different dance organizations, different types of organizations, like whether it's the National Dance Education Organization. I would go to their Instagram, grab some of their followers. If it was like a tap academy, like just random little studios in different parts of the country. And then I was like, okay, you need to invite people that are not just in the US. So I would just use Instagram to find people from all different places and ask them if they want to join, and then, go from there.
Cool. Is your community set up in a way where it's like you have classrooms in there where I think you actually just answered this, you're not using classes anymore, it's more of the leaderboard, or are you doing like video classes and things like that also?
No, I started out doing like trying to fill it with some movement classes, like recorded ones. And I did just recently put like a dance tutorial in there. I think I'll do a few of those myself because some people did ask for recorded things. Right now, there's one tutorial in there, some replays of when guest speakers came in, or many of the sessions are community member led sessions. So there's a couple recordings. Part of me wanted to, I don't know if you're familiar with like masterclass.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's also dance masterclass. That's not related at all, but someone just basically made a masterclass that's just for dance. And so part of me was like, one day it could be incredibly wonderful to have a space that's just like dance masterclass, where there's all these recorded things, and they are classes that are taught by different dance community owners. Like there's a tap dance group, a hip hop group,
Right.
but they each have their own like session that's recorded in there, and someone has a link to be able to go to their community
Right.
from
An
there.
affiliate link.
Yes. Oh yeah. That's like an idea, but right now there's only one thing in the classroom, and I go back and forth between like, what's useful to people and what's not.
Right. Yeah, I guess it's a constant evolution to figure that out.
Mm-hmm. I think so.
What are like some of the things that you're most excited about in terms of Skool itself? Is there anything that really like what brings you back there on a daily basis? Because I know you're super active. Like I think since July or something, you're just always there. So what brings you back?
Uh, well, I've been teaching dance at the same studio for 6 years, and then before that, teaching dance for many years. But I stopped teaching dance last year in July, and so right now I'm married. My partner and I have a toddler. She's 3, and she does like a half day school. So during this time, I'm pretty active. And when she's home, one of us is usually with her. But since I'm not teaching dance anymore, I'm like, I was at a point where I was very much like, I have to make this work. And now I'm at a point where, like, this is going to work. You just need to keep working at it. So yeah, I have to keep coming back to it because school is like my job. Like, it's not a job that
Yeah.
I'm being paid a full-time living wage from, but like, this is what I do. And
Right.
I've definitely taken on the identity of like, this is where I need to be. This is where I'm working. So that's what brings me back. And then there's also just like, I think the dopamine hits of the little red new member request, or one day it will be the little ping of the cash register when I hear that sound one day. Yeah, or just like all the notifications and things, seeing people. And I'm always curious, like, what people are saying in the group. It's not super active, our free community, but there's people that come there and they write a post and it's meaningful and thoughtful, and it brings me back to just find out, like, what do people want? Where are we going? What am I going to learn from these people?
I think the identity, talking about that identity of like school is my job, this is what I'm doing. Like I can definitely relate to that. I think there's a lot of people who are on there. I can see that they've really taken that on as their identity. Um, yeah, I guess I kind of want to get into the ups and downs of it because it's not all, rainbows and butterflies. It's we see a lot of these posts, and this is part of what I want to do with this show is get real with people, because we see a lot of posts about the 10K months. Oh, I just made, whatever online, but it's not always that easy. Like I spent a year building a community that, it ended up making some money, but it wasn't ultimately. I ended up closing it down and pivoting and doing something different. So like there is a lot of learning to happen, at least for somebody who's new to entrepreneurship, new to community building. Like there's going to be an inevitable ups and downs. You feel like talking about any of that?
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. Yeah, I don't know. Coming in and joining the school games, I don't even want to go back and look at the posts that I made, but I know I made posts that were like, I definitely didn't make the posts where, and it's fine if someone does this, but the posts where someone's saying, I'm going to win the school games this month. I didn't do that because I was like, that seems like a lot of stress. But I definitely made the post of, I can't remember what it was, but I was like, let's get to our first 1,000 or something like that. And then by the end of the time period I'd given, and so many people commenting on it, so many people, and I look back, had made their first 1,000. I was like, oh, I haven't made $1 yet. So just like the timeline of these things for me has become more realistic, of like doing these little things every day. And yes, I want to take like a large amount of action and all of these things, but the actual timeline of how long it takes to learn a new thing and then to clarify can sometimes, I think, be a lot longer than I expected when I came in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel that for sure. There's a lot of there's so much learning that goes into this stuff, and people, even at regular job, like you go in, it's going to take you a while to learn how to do the job, to get a raise. Like how can you expect to just jump into school and be making crazy money unless you have a background in something that you're bringing that skill to the platform, and you know marketing, and like there's so many different skills to learn as somebody who's an entrepreneur and doing it for themselves. What do you find to be the most challenging aspect of being an entrepreneur? Like what is your bottleneck right now in terms of your own knowledge base or like the things that you're trying to learn right now?
Um, my own bottleneck might actually be not just following the plan and doing other things. I think that is probably it. Because looking back over, it's been like I joined in January. There's also no reason, like if someone's listening to this in a year, over a year, you can most definitely make money and be where you want to be. I think for me, I had to try things and pivot on different ideas. And then I also came in and started learning from a lot of different people at once. And they were all saying different things. And I was one day trying to follow one person and the next trying to follow another. I still do that to a degree, but I've now really narrowed it down. I listen to what Sarah Hankins says. I listen to the synthesizer way. And even still, it's like just lessening the noise is hard, I think, sometimes because it all sounds really, really good.
Yeah.
And if I'm not focused on this is the actual plan, then it's like, well, that worked for them. And so I'll just do that today. So that's probably my biggest thing is just following one plan and doing that. And I also am a little, I think, maybe stubborn too. I just want, like, I want this dance space to be about dance. And I don't want it to be, I'm not necessarily trying to teach people how to make money online. You know, the main buckets that people put their communities in.
Yeah.
I'm not really trying to do a group that is dance fitness either, where people are coming in so that they can lose weight and do a challenge. Like,
Right.
It's really about just like connecting with other dancers, movement for movement's sake, experiencing art. And something like that is not, there's other plans that can go faster. Other plans I think could get me to where I wanted to be faster, but I don't know if long term it's the vision that I have for my life or the type of community that I want to create, maybe.
Cool. There's a lot there that I'd like to talk about. One thing is that idea of having these multiple people telling you really good advice. I think probably everybody struggles with that. I definitely did. It's when one person is a multimillionaire and they're building online communities, and another person is a multimillionaire building online communities, and you have all these people who are so successful telling you things that are, there's some overlap, but they're kind of different. Sometimes they're even very different strategies. And then there's a temptation to, I'll pick something from this person today, and then I'll pick something from this person today. And I guess that's part of the learning process. Like, that's how we know what works and what doesn't. And it's hard to just follow somebody blindly and just trust that their way is the right way. But if you're constantly pivoting with different strategies, it does slow things down a lot, for sure.
Yes. Yeah. And I look back and, someone made a post about this recently. Maybe it was Jenna. I can't remember. But I look back and I know that for me, coming in with the little knowledge that I had, like, I definitely had to do those things,
Yeah.
I think, to even learn. But first, in building the group that was for the studios, I was trying to learn cold outreach through email. And so there's that, and that's completely different. And the Dance Hub group, I was bringing people in through Instagram and thought, I'll try some things on social media. All good things to learn, like what is great and works for me. But yeah, and now it's like, yeah, it's interesting. It's all different things that I think it's good to like know little bits and pieces of.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of things like that in my life, but the same way that dance is like my thing, I'm excited to find a place where it's like, this is what I'm doing that's working. Those are the things that I'm going to do, and it's going to lead me to the next thing. Yeah, because it's the same with dance. Like, there've been a lot of different types of work, things that I've tried, but dance has always been like, I'm a dancer. I teach dance. I choreograph. blah, blah, blah. It's all dance. Same with school. Like, at least now I found like school is the way, but I'm excited to find like this is the way that I'm going to build on school, and this is
Mhm.
what's working. I'm going to keep doing that. I don't have to look anywhere else.
Yeah.
And every time like things are narrowing in even more once I found like my people.
Mm.
These are the people I'm listening to, and
Mm.
now I'm just excited to see like this is the actual stepping stones and path.
That's so cool. Yeah, I think that what you're talking about here about narrowing things in, that's like that's the name of the game. The more that you can narrow, and that's what everybody teaches ultimately, right? It's like the
Mm-hmm.
more that you can narrow in your focus and do the thing that you need to be doing and just relentlessly doing the thing and only the thing, then you're going to start to find success. And I think that what you just touched on with finding the people and like building trust and building, I mean, I'm maybe jumping one step ahead here, but like building trust and building little networks is part of what gives that kind of solidity in moving in a direction. You know,
Mm-hmm.
it's like maybe it's not about finding the one teacher that's going to help you, but at least it's about finding that pocket of teachers that are close enough in their way of thinking, or at least are harmonized in their differences so
Mm-hmm.
that you don't have to start questioning things. You're like, okay, we're all moving in this direction, and maybe like I know I'm kind of getting into it a bit here, but I think maybe school in general, it was kind of like that for me. It's like, okay, this group of people, school as a big thing, I'm on board with that big thing. Now I
Mm-hmm.
need to find my smaller things within the big thing in order to, move in my direction.
Yeah. Oh, that makes so much sense. Yeah. And even the trust part, I hadn't really thought about that either. It definitely is trust because I'm not one that's going to be out here saying to anybody, don't go and do this community because like that's just not me. But I definitely in the back of my mind with the different communities have had times where I'm like, can I really listen to this person? Like, are they telling me something that, like, do they know what they're saying? Like,
Mhm.
I've had moments where I've questioned, like, because you don't know people until you
Yeah.
really, I guess, like, know people. And it is hard to build trust. And even the building trust in the people that we're listening to, like, we see them in so many places, at least for me. Like with Sarah, I'll go back to Sarah because Sarah is one that it's like, I know Sarah now. And from the moment I had like a face to face call with her, I was like, I feel like I know you. And I feel like I can trust that what you're saying is good. And even if you don't know, you'll find out or you'll listen to me and you'll respond. But yeah, maybe it is like a trust thing, trusting to find our people.
Mhm.
Yeah. You just
I think
thinking.
that's why these like Zoom calls and things for me when I was jumping on School, I was going to as many Zoom calls as I could just around different communities. And I think that really gave me an edge on the platform. Like if I could give any advice to somebody who's new to the platform, it would probably be just get on Zoom calls and like talk with people, you
Mm.
know, because that's where you can find out when somebody's posting. You can learn a little bit about them when they're posting, like, but sometimes it's hard to tell, is that strategy, is that marketing, is that a
Yeah.
funnel? And
Yeah.
like when you're on a Zoom call, you can get a lot more of a sense of like what is actually going on with the person. How much do they care about you and the other people in the call?
Oh, that's a really good point. Yeah. I didn't do that.
You haven't been jumping on Zooms?
No.
Oh, you got to get jumping on Zooms.
No, and it's funny because I don't remember whose group it was, but they're saying like you got to get on the live calls. Like that's where the action is. I often
Yeah,
listen to the replay because sometimes I take that back. Like I get on the school games Q&A call,
yeah,
and I've been on some synthesizer calls. But you're right. Like yeah, that's the only face to face. Otherwise, it's just like a blank post where we're just getting an idea of what somebody wrote to present, but not like
yeah.
actually them in real time.
Yeah, the real time, there's a lot of truth that comes out. And I think it's like the smaller communities is where those are good opportunities to, because if you're on a call with, it's great to be on the Hermosi calls or like the bigger calls too, for sure. But to be on a smaller call in a newer community where there's only 5 or 10 people there, that's when you can really start building those kinds of longer term relationships, I think, which is where that real community comes from.
It makes sense. Also, I'm like, oh, now I want to have more live calls in our group.
So what is the most challenging thing for about School for you? Like, what do you think is the most difficult thing?
I'm not sure. It's pretty easy.
Okay.
Like Skool itself is pretty easy. My journey with Skool.
I mean, maybe as an entrepreneur is a better question. Like, what is the biggest challenge that you find other than that kind of distraction? Never mind.
Yeah.
I mean, you know what? I'm just gonna cut this whole part of the podcast out
I'll leave it here.
because I feel like, what the hell am I even talking about right now?
Oh no, I want to know. I want to know.
Well, I'm asking questions about the challenge. I think what I really want to be talking about is making your first dollar or monetizing it.
Okay, okay.
Maybe I'm trying to find like a back way of talking about it, but I know for me that was a huge thing. Like it was such a hard thing to start making money online. And then I made my first dollar in my community by basically what I did is I wanted to get 3 members, so I offered like a 50% off deal on my paid community when it came out. So I was like, if you guys buy, jump into my paid community now for $1, then you'll get a 50% discount when like the price is actually super high. And it was a high
Ah,
ticket thing, or it was like $1,000. So those guys that bought in at $1 each ended up getting in at 500 for the community. And so it was a great deal for them. It allowed me to make my first dollar online, and they were all signing up for the paid thing once it happened because they got such a deal on it.
that's
Um,
great.
so that worked out really well. But after that, it was like, okay, now how am I going to sell this thing? That's when it, that's
Yeah. Yeah. No, you should leave that other part in. Well, if you want to.
yeah, it'll probably start.
Yes, the making dollars online. That part is well, I technically have made $14, but I didn't keep it. Gave it away to
Was that through school?
yeah, it was through Skool.
Okay, cool.
But I don't count it because it was people tipping people for class. Like it was a tip jar to tip the teacher, and I wasn't the teacher.
Did you hear the
So
cha-ching?
no,
Okay.
no, I wasn't there. And actually, it was only one person who tipped, and then it was my partner that did the other one to see if it actually worked to
Right.
pay.
Testing it, yeah.
Yeah. So I don't really count those because I Venmoed those payments to the other people. But yeah, making money on Skool.
Do you have any strategies around like how you're going to go about that?
Again, there's like so many different ways. I think it would be easy to just have like a one-time purchase inside our group now. I think I could do that now. A large part of me, I think, is also just like it's. I'll tell you, it's going to be great when I'm over the $1 because I want it to be momentous or something. Like there's definitely not enough people where I'm pretty sure if I put something in the classroom that they could pay for, just like Sarah told me to do a long time ago, they would because they're there and all.
I want
It
to say,
might,
why aren't you listening to Sarah?
I don't know. I did actually. I put the tips in there, but the
Okay,
tips
okay.
weren't for me, so it doesn't really count. Yeah, there's a large part of me that is like I want people to feel comfortable in this space, that this free community is going to be free, and what we're providing
Okay.
here is for
Okay.
you, and I'm not gonna like fill the room up with one-time purchases. But I do think there are a lot of people in that group that would also be open to. They already ask like, is there something that we can do? So yeah. And then for the other group, I do think that probably eventually high ticket is the easiest, not easiest, but maybe a better route for me with the amount of time I have and the amount of work that I would be willing to do to help someone. I don't really want to work with a large number of people, I don't think. Like I like the free community being a big group, but I want to have an intimate space where people can really get to know each other. I think that's what I'm still figuring out with this new group that we have.
I'm curious about your relationship with monetizing dance in general. I know for myself as an artist, like I used to be a musician before doing this, and now I'm like, I had a really hard time selling my music. I was like, I just want to make music. And so for me, that was always a huge block. And it's only
Yes.
now where I'm like, okay, I'm doing a service where it's like I see that people want this thing, and I don't really want to do it necessarily, but people want it, so I'm going to do it. So now it feels a lot more comfortable to monetize it, I guess. But what is your relationship with monetizing dance?
That's such a great question. I think it used to be not very good. I think that maybe that's kind of the way it is for many dancers. I
Mm,
feel like dancers still struggle to be paid. I'm sure it's hard for musicians too. Maybe sometimes more than musicians.
mm,
At least there have been situations that I've been in that the musicians were paid
yeah,
and they got breaks, and the dancers were sometimes expected like to participate in a project like for exposure
yeah.
or like to
Seeing that,
build their resume.
yeah.
So I think, yeah, I've never really made the connection. I know that my own personal like beliefs about money, I've had to do, well, not really do some work, just take action in the opposite direction of what I learned or grew up doing as a dancer. But yeah, in my own life, like I choreographed dances. So the rehearsal I just came from was a dance residency at like a historic site.
Mm,
And I'll be making dances there for the next like 6 months or so.
mhm,
And so my own relationship with like people paying for dance, I think, is important. Yes, it's art, but it's not, it's people putting their time into creating something of value for the world.
mhm,
And I think sometimes it does feel like, oh, they're artists. Like they could just go do that anywhere. But it's
mhm,
also like you love having art on your wall. You love going to performances. Like this is where you want to be. And people put time and energy and effort into creating these things.
mhm.
I certainly hadn't made the connection of like your beliefs about dance and money might also relate to your beliefs about selling dance related products online.
Mhm.
So that's something to think about.
It's interesting, the community angle, though, I think is going to be really helpful for artists. It's like I'm imagining, I saw they put music as a category on Skool,
Yeah.
and I'm like, why just music? And then I was thinking, like, oh, all of these record labels who are having a harder and harder time selling music now, like you build a community and the fans have a place to be together. Uh, maybe like the community angle is really going to be a big solution for a lot of artists like dancers. Like you're paying for maybe a small fee every month, like $10 or $20 or whatever it is. Like I'm thinking low ticket to be able to hang out with other dancers. And so you're paying for that almost like you're paying for school, right? You're paying for
Mm-hmm.
that space where they're hanging out.
That makes sense. Yeah. That's neat. I wondered too why it was just music, but that makes a lot of sense.
I saw that you have an app as well. How did that come about?
Oh, the dancing one?
Yeah.
That came through Garrett. What's Garrett's name? Garrett F. I don't know his last name. He has this cool add-ons group.
Okay. I don't think I've met Garrett yet.
Well, we've had one Zoom session like this, but
Okay.
yeah, he's got a good number of people in there and he's building like free lead magnets for them. And that was the one that he made for us.
Cool.
Yeah. And then he's also building onboarding flows for people too, kind of theme based on their community.
Mm.
Yeah, he built that and asked a lot of questions like, well, what do your members want? And I think he had done like fitness trackers and
Oh, okay.
maybe something related to like people learning music or something.
Mm.
And I was curious, like people wanted to dance more. What could you make? But a lot of the ideas to make that movement, it's like a movement prompter where
Right.
you can choose different categories of movement and you just move for 5 minutes and they're really creative prompts and stuff in there that, yeah, that was all Garrett. Thank you, Garrett. Yeah.
For anybody that's listening to this, if they're like, what would be a reason that they would get something like that? If they're looking to just do more movement at home or,
For the app,
yeah.
Oh, yeah. I think if someone is looking to do more movement at home, it's not your traditional like let's sweat and burn for. It's more like if you're trying to get into a creative space and you maybe don't have the motivation or your own prompts, it's a great way to just choose rhythm, and you'll get a prompt that's related to rhythm that might ask you to move counting to the number 8 or something across the room. And I think for the average person who maybe hasn't done something like that, it might be weird. But if you go into it, the idea would be that you would just try something out, and then whatever comes out is not right or wrong. It's just something fun to do.
I think that's so cool. There's like, I know we all walk in like rigid ways down the sidewalk. We're not supposed to step off like onto the curb. Like we have formatted ways of moving that we're used to. So having this kind of, way of pushing us out of our normal ways of movement, I think can be super healthy.
Yeah, I think so too. And there's so many like movement communities on Skool. I'm not a part of them, but the ones that do like movement practices that are more like animal flows
Oh, cool.
or like, I don't actually know much about them, but there's a lot of those kind of movement, just getting us out of our everyday like sedentary ways of being. Who is it? Wendy Wiseman. I don't know if you've talked to
come
her
across
much.
her, yeah.
Yeah. She's big on just like movement and pain-free movement and moving in different ways that are, I'm not doing her justice, but
She's active on Skool. I'm sure for
she's so active.
anybody who joins Skool, they're gonna meet her very soon.
Yes.
Yeah. Cool. Well, it's been great speaking with you. Before we go, I'd really just love to know if you have any advice for like people who are new to the platform, who are just coming onto the platform. Like, what should they know? What should they do?
Well, they should come in and plan to stay for a while, I think. It's probably good. I think a lot of people come in, try it out. If it doesn't work the first time, maybe quit or leave. But yeah, I feel like just think like school's like a long, like, I don't know, it's not a party. I don't have a great analogy, but just plan to come in and stay for a while. Especially if you're new. Things might not work out as quickly as you think they will, but search for the people, find your people. Maybe even just be open to experimentation. I'm not sure if I'm the best example, like if there are plans to monetize, but be open to experimentation. Because yeah, I came in with something different in mind, I think. And now I'm curious, like, how's this going to branch into real life? That it already is starting to with classes and yeah. I think it's just that. Just plan to be here for a while and be open-minded to experimentation. You might learn something new from somebody. You'll definitely learn something from somebody if you're open-minded.
Well, thanks for the chat, Lauren. I appreciate it.
Thank you. I appreciate this. This is great.